For Drawing Lab today, we are going to work on some figure drawing using the model of the bean. And the bean is a way to describe the torso of the human body. So here we're just looking at a skeleton, and we're going to see how you can map the bean onto the human body. So the bean is basically comprised of two ovals. One of the first things I always do when I'm dealing with this is I find the center line. Now our first oval is sort of made up by the rib cage, and the imaginary underside of the oval that comes there. You don't have to draw that when you draw your bean. And then the second oval is kind of made up of the pelvis and then comes up and intersects into the rib cage hollow there. So those two ovals kind of interacting and moving and twisting are what make up the bean. You do not have to draw the lines in the middle of the bean. I'm just showing you the ovals here. Now we're going to map the bean onto some figures that I have uploaded into your Drive folder for you. So if you can print these out, go ahead and do it. If you can't, you can still do the copying part. So the first thing I'm doing here is I identify the center line on the girl using kind of between the breasts, the center point of the neck, the belly button, and the crotch. You kind of connect the dots to get the center point. And then I'm kind of mapping out where those two ovals of the bean are on her. And you can see one side of her, because the way she's sitting, one side of her has like a little crease in it, and the other side actually doesn't. So often when you're thinking of movement with the bean, you want to figure out where the bean is going to be stretched and where the bean is going to be contracted. So you can see on this side of her, it is stretched. And on this other side of her, it's contracted, and that causes like a little fold at her waistline. And thinking about how that happens with the two ovals can really help you map out some nice contrapposto with your bodies. The other thing I like to do is I like to kind of figure out where the legs sit into that. You can see like there's like an oval there that sort of intersects that oval, so that's what I'm drawing here with this lilac pencil. And where the neck sits into the bean. The neck sits into the bean, not on top of it. And then I also like to mark out like a shoulder cowl so I can deal with the shoulders and I get the arms coming out of the right part of the body. So I'm just tracing this onto her, and then you see when I go to draw it, I'm going to use what I've drawn here as a guideline to draw the guidelines for her, and then I'll fill in all the details of her body. So now I'm going to map this out on real paper. I start by drawing the bean, and I'll often kind of put the center line in either at the beginning or near the beginning so I can start to make sure that I'm in the right place. But here's my center line. It's a good place to start. It's an easy line to follow. I've drawn this torso a little slanted from how it actually sits, but that's okay. This is just an exercise. You'd want to do this like 700 times to get good at it. She's kind of tricky to draw the arms on. You can see when I get to the arms because her shoulder is actually sitting up next to her ear. And that's not typically how we think of shoulders. So drawing that cowl in, it really helps me identify where her shoulders are. And now I'm going to start with her, so I'm going to do the same thing with her. I'm going to map out where her ovals are, where her center lines are, where her legs and neck intersect the oval, and then I'm going to use that as a guideline to mapping out and drawing her body. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to use the bean to kind of make up your own pose. So here's a pretty simple pose. I've drawn my little bean, center line, top oval, bottom oval. And depending on how confident you are, choose a pose or aim for a pose that you think is going to be simple for you. I'm putting the legs in here, distributing the weight. This is a pose that I use pretty commonly for costume design poses, so it's not too difficult for me to kind of map out here. And I don't want you to get into too much crazy detail with this for lab. I just want you to learn to do the bodies. You're going to do 2 of the photos that I've uploaded and then 1 on your own. And that is the assignment for Drawing Lab this week.